can start. Hello everyone and welcome to our first webinar about our release updates. Actually, we want to create a new series about our release updates every 2 months. So this is the first one in this round. So we will also record the session so that you can take later a look if you forgot something, what I actually did or wanted to show you. And the idea behind this session is that we actually show you directly what is actually new in our development. As you maybe all know, we always send it you actually such an info email every 2 months. So every 2 months we have a major release, and this time it's actually the release 4.4 from Lockup. And on top of it, as you can see on the title, we released this time also a new app, the Inventory Optimization app. That's why this is additionally under this topic. And the idea behind is that I directly show you hands-on what's new on the platform. And you feel free, you can also ask questions in our Q&A sections, and my colleagues in the background, they can directly answer them, or they can also highlight in some of the questions, and we will take it up later after the presentation. Yes, so maybe one word to myself who don't know me. I'm Alex, I'm the CTO of Lockup, and I'm responsible for the development team. And I will show you today what actually are our new features. Yes, the areas that we want to cover, like I mentioned already, we have a new application, the Inventory Optimization app. Then we have also a really cool new feature. It's called Map Layers. There I will show you how you can quickly add a predefined layer that is, for example, provided by us from Lockup to your map, or how you can also create this kind of map layers and reuse these map layers in a team, for example, or in your projects. Then in addition, so the first 2 items are actually brand new. This did not exist before. And the other 3 items, you know them already, and there we had some improvements. So we did some improvements in the area of the route optimization, and we did some improvement in the Network Design Plus application, and also a small adjustment in the distance calculation. So, and also to mention upfront, many of these topics that we actually developed came actually based on the feedback from you, from our customers, and we try to integrate it in our solution. But that's actually pretty much it, what I want to show you from a slide perspective. Let's directly jump into the solution itself. Let's go to the Excel. What I did here, I just opened already the add-in, and I highlighted the applications that I will use now in the presentation on top. There's maybe one important point. If you don't see the new inventory optimization, you need to do the following. You can click here on this plus, right, where you can select all the application, or you can also deselect the application. And here, just activate here this yellow star on the inventory optimization app, that you have it here directly on your main menu. If you add it, most likely it will come to the end. Then you can use drag and drop like I did to bring it up here. There's maybe one more topic before I want to directly jump in the inventory optimization app. If you wonder what is actually new in each release, I quickly want to show you where you can always find this information. When you open the Lockup platform, directly on the start page, there is this help center. And here you can go under the help center. And here are many helpful informations, for example, how to set up and so on, or other topics. And here we also have actually our release notes. And here we have then again in detail covered what was updated in the according month. And like I mentioned here, you have the release notes also from the past. Like I mentioned, every 2 months we have a major release here. So just that you can find this information later on. And then let's go quickly back also to the platform, because for our demonstration, what we will definitely need today is a workspace. The same like with nearly all of our application, you can also use the inventory optimization to save the scenario. And this is what we want to do. Therefore, I just create for this presentation a new workspace. Let's call it Lockup 4.4 release updates. So this workspace we will use then later on. And now let's directly jump into the network, into the inventory optimization we want to start with. So let's open the application. And first, let's generate the sample data. So the inventory optimization is designed that you can directly optimize the inventory policies for multiple SKUs. This means we have two input tables, the demand data and the SKU master data. So this application was also developed together with one of our biggest customers, and thank you also there for the input. It was really helpful based on these real life use cases. We could develop this application and also improve it. And now we have the possibility to share this with all of you, the application. So in these two input tables, we have demand data, SKU master data. The demand data is quite simple. We describe here in the first column which of the SKUs is it. So I optimize here in the sample data 3 SKUs, article 1 to article 3. And here we define in one row is actually the demand on one day, right? So and I have here multiple lines and define an everyday demand of this item. And here in the SKU master data, we can define then all the policies. Before I actually directly jump into this white table, I directly want to start the calculation. So here I use again the save scenario feature that is available in all of our apps now. And now I just want to actually use this workspace that we just created. Scenario name for now is fine, inventory optimization. And then let's start the calculation already in the background. As you will see, the optimization will take a couple of seconds. And in the meantime, I can also explain you what is actually going on and what we are optimizing. The inventory optimization is actually optimizing the inventory policies. If you are not familiar at the moment anymore, what are all the policies or which are available at the moment, we support actually 4 policies. You can find them here under the SKU master data, under this info icon. You can click here on more, and then you have actually a detailed description of all the policies that we actually support, that it's easier to read. I can quickly go back in the presentation mode and show you the policies that we actually support. I will not go here in detail. I just want to explain you the first two. We are supporting the SQ policy. SQ policy means when you go with your inventory level under a certain threshold S, then you will reorder a fixed quantity Q. And these are the two parameters that we are actually optimizing then later on. Another policy is the SS policy. It's pretty similar to the SQ. The only difference is when you go with your inventory under a certain point S, you actually order up to a specific level S here. So for example, your reorder point is 100. You have now, for example, an order, you go down with your inventory down to 90, then you order that many items that your stock is filled up to 1,000. And this 1,000 is the capital S here. So this is this policy. Just for completion, this you can also check later on in detail. There is also the RS policy and the RSS policy that we are actually calculating and optimizing. What will actually happen in the inventory optimization app that we try to calculate the optimal solution for all the 4 policies, and then we will tell you which policy is the best one. So before we jump here in the details, so now actually the calculation is done. Before I go here in the detail of all the parameters that you can figure, I quickly want to show you the result dashboard that we can click Open Dashboard. By the way, because I say save scenario, everything is directly saved here in our workspace, right? This was the workspace I created. And I gave him a scenario name, inventory optimization, and now everything is here saved. The whole input data, output data that is used, and also the dashboard that I just actually opened. So here I have now our overview of the dashboard, and you can actually see here, this is then all the 3 articles aggregated. To explain it to you in more detail, I will just go into the article 1, for example. In the article 1, we have always an as-is situation and now the optimized situation. How do we actually get to an as-is situation? The as-is situation happens because we can define here in the parameter the existing policies that is at the moment configured in your system. And here we actually defined that we are using the SQ policy with the parameters 105 and 50. This is how we are able to use an as-is and do a comparison of your existing policy to the optimized policy. And now let's go back to the dashboard. And here you can directly see then the total costs that we saved are 25% because we adjusted the policy like this. And the costs are, there are multiple factors that are actually added to the costs. So we have costs for ordering, we have holding costs and shorted costs, right? Shorted costs are actually the costs of the lost sales. And now I can go back to the Excel. This is actually what you can also configure per article in the input table. So first of all, that we can do our calculation, you provide here the article. This is exactly the field that maps here to your demand data. Then you can provide here an additional name. For example, here we have a microwave. Then we can define the lead time. This means how many days it takes when you order something that the order arrives. Then we have the ordering costs. That is one effect. The holding costs. Holding costs are per day. Again, if you forget any of this content of the field, always go in here and check the description of all the separate columns in detail. Then we have the shorted costs that I mentioned. These are actually the costs for lost sales. And then we have the initial inventory. This is the current inventory that you have on the current date. Then we have a backlog duration. Here you can, for example, influence when is an order that you cannot fulfill considered as a lost sale. So for example, by default, directly, if you are out of stock, it's a lost sale. But if you enter here, for example, 3 days, then it would say, okay, you have 3 days time to maybe fill up the order and it is not considered as lost sale. So this is what you can do here. And then we have a really interesting field. This is the service level. And here I actually want to go now with you in a bit more detail, okay? So as you saw, let's quickly go back to the data that we calculated. We optimized our inventory policy to 89.33, and we are reaching now a service level of 96 because we gave the optimizer the freedom. He should reach a service level of 95. If we adjust, for example, the service level, let's say, hey, I must reach a service level of 98. So with service level, we mean how many of the demands that we have actually, we need to try to fulfill. This is actually, and now when we want to reach a higher service level, I would assume what I'm doing in parallel, I just want to quickly only use one article. Also from calculation perspective, it doesn't take so long for the calculation. And also, it's easier to explain. So now just remove the other articles. This is how it would look like if you are just using one article. And now I don't want to overwrite the existing scenario. I want to, article 1, and we say service level 98. Let's do now the calculation again. Now we are increasing the service level, and this will most likely affect our inventory. When you go down here, you can actually see in the dashboard that you have here how the inventory behaves over time, right? So the green one on top, the light green one, is the as-is situation. And in the optimized situation, we could lower our inventory because we reduce it because we went down in the reordering point and also in the quantity. So you can see in the average, we have a lower inventory level then. And these are some charts that you can check and see how the inventory behaves. So here is then the different costs visualization, and what's also here interesting, here you can actually see how our optimizer works. Okay, what we actually built is this graph, and this graph is the cost function behind, and we are climbing down this cost function and try to find the optimal solution then here. So the blue dot that you see here in front, this was actually the as-is situation. And when we turn it to this side, and this dark green one, this is actually the optimized solution that we actually found. So this is actually from a technical background, what we are actually doing in the background. So we are climbing down this mountain to find the optimal point, but under consideration of the service level, right? Because now this is actually what I want to quickly show you. Let's see. He is still calculating with the other service level, the optimization. Now he is at 80%, just creating the dashboard, and he will be done in a second. Now he is done. Let's open this dashboard. So if you go back now to the workspace, you will actually see that we have now two folders in there, two scenarios. And now we see it that our optimization, let's go again to the article, is now we only have a cost saving of 16% compared to before we had a cost saving of 25% because we forced the system to reach a higher service level. Now we told here the service level should be 98, and in the simulation itself, he could reach actually 98.08 with this simulation or with this optimization. This means as higher is the service level, as more inventory you need to actually fulfill this service level, and that's why also now here the savings is actually then lower. So this is the topic what I wanted to show you here. And when we go back to our workspace, now you can see that we have actually two runs in this workspace already saved. There's maybe one additional note when I just jump quickly back to the tool, what else we can configure. I just want to highlight the most important point. So what is really important, this is what I mentioned already, is what is the SQ the policy that you are actually using, you can define here. And what's also sometimes relevant is that you can sometimes only use a certain policy. Here in this field relevant policy, when there is nothing filled, the optimizer can use all the four policies to find the optimal solution. So as an example of the calculation run before, where we had 3 articles, here in the article number 3, in the as-is situation, we had the policy SQ, but now the optimizer saw, okay, hey, it makes much more sense to use the policy SS, and then we had a cost saving of 37%. And this is what you can see here, that our optimizer will also make the decision for you, which of the policy is the best one to actually use. So here in this article, he made the switch. Now the topic is the following. If you want to, for example, force the optimizer, you are not allowed to use this policy, you could just use this field here, this relevant policy, and tell him, okay, please only use the SQ policy. What the optimizer will do now, he only will optimize the policy SQ and is not allowed to use the other policies. And in the article 1, it will have the same result because the SQ policy was the best one. With the article number 3, there would be a different result because you force the optimizer to use actually a certain policy. So this is it regarding the inventory optimization app, just as a first overview. Feel free to try it out. Like I mentioned, it's brand new, right? It was just released last week, and now it's available. And maybe let's quickly ask if there are any questions in the meantime. So, but Jan, maybe you have to help me or someone else because I don't have an overview about the questions that we directly should answer.
For example, there was a question, yes, so what is the maximum number of articles in one scenario?
So the number of articles in one scenario. So this really depends. So Michaelo, I need to check what is the app limits at the moment here in this table. But so overall, you can run multiple of the SKUs. I would need to check this. We will write the app limits of the demand data will be the limiting factor here, definitely. Most likely it's around 10,000. Just what I definitely want to mention, if you put in one calculation, run more articles in there, the calculation time will run much longer, right? As you saw, if I run one article or 3 articles, it will just take longer. So, and there, if you really have to, short spoiler alert, we are currently working already at the API integration and also at the workflow that is integrated in KNIME. So if you have to calculate 1,000 articles, then it would be definitely also helpful to just automate it in the background. But maybe we can check in the meantime what the current setup on the demand data is. This will be the limiting factor.
And then there is also an additional question, right? So if we can also see, right, if the service level goes down, right? So compared as is versus the optimal one, right?
Yes, this is definitely the case. We can easily show this. If we give him, for example, more freedom, right, here a lower service level, right? And as in the current one, let's just say this one, service level 80, then we will definitely drop our, go down further with the inventory. And, but then we also have a lower service level. And also, what is also important regarding the service level, sometimes it is not possible to reach the service level. If you enter, for example, 99 service level, and you have, for example, an initial inventory that is so low that you cannot fulfill the orders in the beginning, then it can also happen that you have a lower service level that you actually request here from the optimizer, because whatever he configures, the parameters, he can never catch up with the loss in the beginning. So this is also important to know. So what I just did now, I just did a calculation with a lower service level, right? I gave him the freedom of 80%, and now you can see even in the optimized way, he would still reach 88, and this is then the maximum that he would actually save, 26%. This means if you go down with the service level after a certain point, it's not possible to further optimize it anymore. So the service level, you can see it as an additional constraint.
Yes, exactly. And I think so this also answers an additional question, right? So fully correct. So we minimize the total cost, right? Consisting of what Alex mentioned, right? So the ordering cost, holding cost, and shorting costs. And the service level can be seen as an additional constraint, right? So that has to be fulfilled, right? So that's a way. And I think the question went into the direction if we can also optimize only based on service level, right? So we are always optimizing based on the costs and see the service level as an additional constraint. I hope this answers also this question.
Yes.
Can we incorporate lead time variability, right? So this was an additional question, right? Regarding the lead time, we have to specify it currently, right? So per SKU, so this is more or less fixed. What you have the possibility is also regarding the backlog duration. There you can define if this is empty or not filled or zero, right? It's handled as a zero, right? So, but whenever you cannot deliver an SKU, it would then be seen as lost sales. If you would put in here a positive number, then it is stacked up, right? So by the number of days that are specified in this backlog duration column, and only if exceeded, right? So by the number of days specified here, it is seen as a lost sales.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So Jan, maybe based on the time that we have enough time to cover the other points, maybe you and the colleagues can answer the questions that are in the Q&A, right? And I will just continue with the other features and you will continue with the answers just in the background. Okay?
Good idea. So Man is already.
Okay, perfect. So thank you to the team to help me there in the background. Then I actually want to directly jump to our next feature. This is actually the map layers. So what is the idea behind the map layers? The idea behind the map layers is that you are quickly able to add to existing maps, so that you just calculate it, for example, center of gravity, add locations that are actually predefined. And this predefined location doesn't have to be only location, can be also areas or whatever content you can quickly add in one click to the application. And so that we make the life easier for you, we have already some predefined map layers from Lookup. And I just opened the platform itself, right? The starting page. And here before you had my items, then you had here shared with me. And now we have the map layers from Lookup. So I just will quickly collapse this here. And currently, these are the one that we have. So feel free to give us some input. Just send a mail on support@lookup, which other map layers would be maybe helpful for you. We just started with some of the important logistics provider with the locations from them. For example, if you do a center of gravity and you want to know, hey, are there maybe some locations from Kühne und Nagel in this area? Then we have here a map layer from Kühne und Nagel with all the locations from Kühne und Nagel worldwide. So you have the possibility to also click on these locations, and then you can see some additional descriptions. This depends always on the provided data. So all the data that you can see here are publicly available on their website. And here is, for example, a warehouse of the road hub from the road logistics. And this is, for example, a map layer. And now other map layer would be just one more example, would be besides Kühne und Nagel. We have here the location from Amazon. Or interesting is also the DHL locations, because here in the DHL locations, we actually have multiple layers, because they provided also some additional information. Is it just an office? Or for example, here are all the warehouses from DHL. And this map layer, you can quickly actually add to an existing map. So as you can see here, this was just the display, how to look at them. And these are the predefined map layers from our side. But I will show you how you can create your own map layers. And first of all, I will quickly show you how you can actually use these map layers. Okay. And now let's use this map layers quickly with a center of gravity calculation. Therefore, I want to use the center of gravity plus application, only because of the reason that we have here the sample data here is in France. Yes, it's in France. So I just calculated something. Think you do some calculation in your project. I did it here quickly with a center of gravity. So now we have here our locations. And the orange one, these are actually the centers. Now it would be interesting to see, okay, nice centers, but as you know, center of gravity could be directly in the mountains. But now it would be maybe interesting, are there any locations close by from the big service providers? And then you just open here these layers, and this plus button here on top is new, because this is how you can actually add a map layer. And by default, we select then the lookups map layer. Currently, I don't have my own map layers yet, but I will show you later. You have here then more selection possibilities in the workspace. And then you just click here and say, okay, let's add the KNN locations. So, and now with one click, what I just did, I just added all the locations from Kühne und Nagel. And as you can see, Kühne und Nagel has really, in the area where we have the centers, also close by some realistic warehouses that maybe could be a solution for the customer to use. If you, for example, want a different map layer, you can just remove this one. And then you can, for example, check what DSV is doing in this area. You can just add the DSV locations here too. So obviously in the area of Paris, nearly all of the logistics provider have some warehouses and so on. And then you can quickly add these map layers. One other note, the map layers are not restricted only to locations. You can also add, for example, quickly areas. If you have, for example, areas, so this whole tool got also built by one of the feedback from one of our biggest customer. They want to create, for example, certain areas with some data only they have. For example, population data, cost data for the workforce, and so on. And then you can, for example, add these areas. You can create a workspace and share this then only in your team or in your company. And here I just quickly want to show you that you can also use different types than locations. So, and now what we need to do is we want to create actually our own map layers. And to do this, we first need to create a map, because any map that you create, you can convert into a map layer and share it then with your colleagues. So therefore, I go in the supply chain map. Let's go just in the lat long version, and let's quickly use here the locations of the sample data and push them to a map. So this could be, for example, now my customers in a specific project. And when you, for example, want to model a baseline, you could also do all the existing relations to the warehouses and so on. It doesn't have to be only locations. You can model, for example, a baseline. For the simple use, I just use here some locations. And now I save them as a map in our created workspace. Let's say USA customers. So now they are only saved as a map, like you know it before, and you cannot reuse as a map layer. We on purpose did it that you first have to convert a map actively into a map layer that other people from the workspace itself can actually reuse it. And this is done when you go to the workspace. Here's the map that we created. Go on the three dots, and here is save as map layer. And you can go here. You can save it in a different workspace, wherever you like. I just want to save it in the same workspace, and I say map layer customers. You can give it the same name or a different name. I give it now a different name that we see the difference. And here we have now this new map layers customers, and it has a different icon here, and it also has a different type. You can still open this map layer because you are the owner. We just created it, and you can change it. For example, you can change the color and everything. Let's quickly do some change. Let's say this definitely needs to be orange. And then you can, as you are used to it, you can save it, and you can actually override this map layer. So now this is our workspace. When you want to share this workspace, you can share it in a project like you are used to. Here under Manage Access, you can share it in a project with your colleagues of the team. What also the idea behind is that you as a company, you have one central workspace where you have all helpful map layers for all of your colleagues, and then you can just add all your colleagues into this workspace, and everyone can just reuse these map layers. So you can do it project-based, or you can do it actually for your whole team, just depending on the sharing rights of your workspace. Now, let's do, for example, a calculation. Let's do a network design, because the network design should have the sample data in the US. Now we just created a map. And when we open this and go to this plus icon here, now we have the possibility, because we have an additional map layer in a different workspace. Now we can select the also other workspace. Let's select the one that we created and add our customers to our map. So now we have then with one click, can also other users of your team can just quickly add some additional data to the map itself. So this is actually the idea behind these map layers, that you really can give a quick access to this data. And just one topic, because one of the feedback that we got already regarding these map layers, we will provide you in the future here also with the possibility that you can also download this data here in a data set, that you can maybe reuse it in one of your calculations. So at the moment, it's the more the idea behind the map layers for the visualization, but we will also provide you here this standard data also for download and later on. So this is the topic what I want to show you actually about the map layers. Here, for example, is the 50 most important airports, for example, that we that we added. Yes, this kind of points. And as I mentioned before, feel free to have to give us some feedback. What would be really helpful maybe for you too as an additional map layer. So we just started this concept, and we will definitely add additional map layers in the future. Okay. So Jan, can you help me again? Are there actually any relevant? Are there any questions to the map layers that we can directly address?
There was one additional interesting question, right? So can we warm start the optimization, or does it always take the same amount of time, right? So I think so. This is related to the inventory optimization.
Yeah.
We do more or less a kind of warm start, right? So because we start when we have, right? So when it is provided, we take the as is iteration as a starting point. Nevertheless, so this kind of optimization, yeah, takes some time. It's a little bit resource intensive, right, to do all this calculation and to find the optimum. But yeah, as said, right, so this kind of concept is in there. So this was this question. Then let me check, right, if we have there anything else what we should also mention in the background. Yeah, okay, thanks for this comment. We have to merge Schenker and DSV locations. So
Yes,
indeed, we have to do it.
We have to, yeah.
Yes,
but that's good. I think Jan otherwise just interrupt me later on, right? So then I cover the other 3 topics that are still open. So let's take a quick look back to the agenda. We cover the inventory optimization app and the map layers. And now I want to show you some improvements in the route optimization. So I wrote here specific route optimization because it's in the Milkrun Optimization Plus and also in the transport optimization. As an example, I just want to show you the enhancement in the Milkrun Optimization Plus. Let's generate a template here real quick. So this was also a feedback from our customers, from you, and then we directly try to realize it. There was one topic in the past. We always had here in the pickup and delivery orders, we had a loading and unloading time per order. This means you need 3 minutes time for the loading and unloading, but this was for a specific order. And then was the feedback that the customer, they want to have a default time per vehicle on a depot, how much time I definitely need on this depot for the vehicle to load, independent of how many goods I load onto this vehicle. Because the whole time the optimizer, what he did, if he assigned, for example, 15 orders, then the loading time was always depending on this time here, but there you could not specify a default loading time. And this we enable this possibility. Now on the depot level, you can specify, for example, 10 minutes. This makes sure that every vehicle that is loaded on this depot has at least a loading time for 10 minutes. And in addition, based on the amount of goods that are loaded on there. So if you, for example, want to model only a loading time per vehicle, you model it here, and then you just set the other unloading and loading time to 0. This was one adjustment. Then another question was often also from many customers, in the Milkrun optimization to the Milkrun Plus. In the Milkrun optimization, we can model the costs better than in the Milkrun Plus optimization. That is why we have now the possibility to also enhance here our cost modeling, that we have actually also here a cost per kilometer that we can model. So the fixed cost was already possible, per hour was possible, and now it's also per kilometer is possible regarding the cost modeling. And in addition, we changed actually the modeling of the brake profiles. And not only the modeling of the brake profiles, also the possibility of the brakes that are possible. If you have, for example, a long running trip, right, from Germany to Spain, and you have to drive over multiple days, then you have now the possibility to specify per vehicle this multiple lines for the brakes. This means you can force him to take a break after 4 hours and then force him to take a longer break after 8 hours. This is now possible. Before, only one line for the brakes was possible. And in addition, it's possible that you are actually modeling relative the start time of the break in a relative way. So before, only this modeling concept was possible, including the break duration. Now you can say, okay, when the start time of the vehicle or the available vehicle time, after 2 hours you have to make a break, or here after 6 hours. In this time frame, it's a different kind of modeling how you can actually model the breaks per vehicle. So this is actually what we adjusted in the route optimization area. Same topic is for the not only for the Milkrun Optimization Plus, also for the Transport Optimization Plus. But I think it doesn't make any sense to show this now. It was just I just want to show actually this example. This is example number 1, what we did, and then we. Sorry, let's go quickly back here to the presentation. The next improvement, what I want to show you, is the adjustment in the Network Design Plus. Here we can model now service level constraints too. Give me 1 second. Network Design Plus, where is it? I think here it is. As you can see, the numbers of tables are growing in the Network Design Plus. It gets more and more complex. So, and in the end, we have actually a new table, the distance limit. So we will call it, this will be still changed. What we can actually model here, we can model a kind of a service level constraint. So how it actually works is you can model here, for example, this table. You can also model multiple service levels. So for example, you can say in an area of 500, in a distance of 500 kilometer, I want to cover, you can do it again on weight, volume, and weight and volume, and then you have a penalty cost. So for example, here I want to cover, let's say 75% of my weight and 75% of my volume should be covered in a distance limit of 500 kilometers. If I don't apply to this, please give it a penalty cost. This is for the optimizer. Try to keep actually this additional constraint. This is what you can model. And then you can also model another one. For example, say in a distance of 750, we want to cover 90%. And then you can go, for example, up to 1,000. Sorry, 1,000. There you can cover, for example, let's say 99 service level. And then you can have the same penalty cost, or you can increase it. So this kind of service level constraints you can actually model here now too, in addition to help the optimizer to fulfill actually this constraint. This was also actually demand from multiple customers that we enabled now for the Network Design Plus application. Yes. So again, this table is actually optional. This means when you use the network design application again, like it was before, you don't have to fill the table. That's why we also leave it empty in the generate template version. So you can still run all your old templates. Should work everything fine. You just need to have this empty table then selected actually. So this was the adjustment in the network design area. Let's go back. There's one more, and then I think we also have enough time still to cover different questions. Then we also have an improvement in the distance calculation application. Let's quickly go there. So what is here actually new applies for address mode and let long mode for both. We have here now one additional parameter. This is this route preferences. And by default, let's open which one we support. Most likely you know this also from other engines, distance calculation engines. So we have here the mode recommended. So recommended was the whole time configured. This means if you recalculate it again, in recommended, it will be the same result like you had the result the whole time in the distance calculation. And now you have additionally the mode shortest and fastest. So this is actually what you can influence. And it was also based on some customer feedback, and especially in the area when you have, for example, some connections with some ferries, then this can make really quite a big difference. If you go, for example, from Denmark up to Norway or something, and there are multiple ferry connections, then please take a look. It is possible that there are really different results in the calculation itself. So if I just use now, and sometimes it's also really the same result. So if I push this now to the map, here I think it's just the sample data in California, if I'm not mistaken. Now we have the regular one. Let's maybe just calculate, sorry for this one. Let's calculate just quickly one route. This is from San Francisco to Fresno. And if I do, for example, now the shortest, most of the time recommended and fastest are the same. Shortest is sometimes a difference, but this obviously you need to try it out per instance. Let's push this to the same map and say merge. And here it's actually both of them have the same color. I'm not even sure if there is any difference. Yeah, there's some difference now. For example, here, if you go the fastest, you would go here the highway. If you go the shortest, you just force him on a different way. So I think it's quite clear. So this is just a possibility that you can actually make this effects, and especially if you want to try something out, it's sometimes helpful for some of the critical distances. Yes. So that's actually already it, what I wanted to show you for today. And now we can cover maybe some questions that at the moment, sorry, I don't see them. If there are any questions, maybe Jan, you can help me if there are any open questions.
Let's check. So I think all of them have been so far covered, right? So there was a question regarding the Network Design Plus, right? If the penalty costs are applied three times, right? And yes, this is the case, right? So whenever so the penalty term applies per constraint, right? So this was.
So this means if we have now, for example, one distance, 1,100 kilometers, then the penalty costs are applied three times, because for each of this row we have the penalty. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This was one question. Then there was also the question, right? So if the data we have in our map layers, are these office locations available from the web? Yes. So what we included in there, right? So are more or less publicly available location data from the logistics service providers from their website. So that's the data source.
Yes, and this also, when you have some suggestion, we can only publish data that is actually publicly available for everyone. Yes.
Yeah. So Jelena and team, please help me, or Michaelo, if we missed something, a question.
So far, I think we didn't. Not sure. Maybe guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I think there was just one question. Is anything related to cross-board, for example, UK, UE? So.
Can you repeat again? So I didn't get it. Cross-board?
Yes, so cross-board, for example, the connection UK, UE.
This is also influenced by this distance calculation. To be honest, we would need to try out, right? So we just enable this, we enable these features, but we didn't check this relation. We would need to check. Yeah. So because, like I mentioned, right, it's for just a possibility that you can also ask this the engine in the background, but we didn't check all of the relations. Yeah, we would need to check and then we can come back. Okay, so there's maybe a question regarding the recording. Maybe there's one topic what I also want to mention. So this session is recorded, right? And we will also make this session available for download. So we also want to try to link this then actually to the release notes, that on every release note in the future we have actually this session connected where we actually show you the new features, and it should be available for download, and then you can also share it with some of your colleagues. Yeah. Okay, so then if there are no additional questions, then I think we can also close the first release update a bit earlier. And then thank you very much for your time and interest. And we are looking forward to hear some feedback from you, and then we try to realize it in our next release. So just as an update, the next release will be again in 2 months, right? It will be beginning of December. Yeah. So always in the beginning of the month, we will have the new release. Okay. Then thank you very much and have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So Milica, could you maybe stop the session then?